Welcome to English Story Room. Today's English story is called The Silent Map. It's a heart-touching story about kindness, understanding, and connection, told in slow, clear English for all learners. Let's begin. When Elara stepped off the train at Shinjuku Station, she could feel the whole city vibrating beneath her feet. Tokyo wasn't quiet, not even for a second. It pulsed, like a living heart made of sound and light. She stood there, suitcase handle in one hand, eyes wide like a child. Neon signs blinked in colors she didn't even have names for. The air smelled like roasted chestnuts, rain-soaked concrete, and fresh bread from the bakery nearby. "This is it," she whispered to herself. "I'm really here." For years, Elara had dreamed of this trip. She had saved, worked weekends, skipped nights out, all for this moment. Back home, she had spent months planning her route: shrines, markets, temples, quiet gardens. She wanted to see everything. But most of all, she wanted to visit one special place, the Ginkgo Garden. She had seen it online, a hidden park filled with golden trees that shimmered in the sunlight like living flames. It was said to be peaceful, almost magical. She promised herself she would go there on her first full day in Tokyo. Day 1, the adventure begins. That morning, she woke early, her excitement buzzing like electricity. She packed her small backpack, camera, water bottle, notebook, phone, and a folded paper map she'd bought from a tourist stall. She smiled at her reflection before leaving her hotel. "Let's go find it." The streets were already alive. People hurried past, students in uniforms, businessmen in black suits, women with umbrellas even though it wasn't raining. Cars moved silently, trains hummed in the distance. At first, it was thrilling. Everything felt new: the rhythm of the crosswalk beeps, the vending machines that glowed like mini lighthouses, the smell of street food. She stopped often to take photos, to look around, to breathe it all in. But slowly, the excitement began to fade into confusion. Tokyo was beautiful, but it was also huge. Every street looked like another, every sign was written in characters she couldn't read. Her phone buzzed once, then went black. Battery dead. Her heart sank. "Oh no," she whispered. No GPS. No translator. No clue where she was, getting lost. At first, she tried to stay calm. "I can handle this," she told herself. "It's just part of the adventure." She pulled out her paper map, colorful, creased, full of promise, but the streets around her didn't match what she saw on the page. She turned it sideways, then upside down. Still wrong. A group of tourists passed by laughing, holding bubble teas. For a moment, Elara thought about following them. Maybe they were going somewhere interesting. But they disappeared around a corner before she decided. So, she asked for help. "Excuse me," she said to a woman in a gray suit who had just stepped out of a shop. "Do you know where the Ginkgo Garden is?" The woman smiled warmly but shook her head. Ginkgo," she repeated softly, then spoke in rapid Japanese, pointing down the street and then left and right in quick gestures. Elara smiled, nodded, even though she didn't understand a word. "Thank you," she said anyway. Next, she tried a group of teenagers outside a convenience store. They giggled nervously when she asked, then one boy said, Maybe Metro Line 2? Or bus?" Another corrected him. No, not Line 2." They argued softly in Japanese. Finally, one said with a bright smile, "Bus! Bus, yes." "Which bus?" Elara asked. The boy froze, then laughed awkwardly. "Maybe red one?" She smiled again, half amused, half defeated. "Thank you." By her third attempt, an old man eating ramen from a stand, her confidence was fading. He looked at her map carefully, nodding with deep seriousness. "You go straight," he said slowly, drawing a line in the air. "Then right, near Fish Market." Elara blinked. "Fish Market?" she repeated. The famous one was across the city. He nodded again, smiling proudly. "Hi! Fish Market!" She thanked him, bowed slightly, she'd learned that much, and walked away. Now she was even more lost. Moments of doubt. By afternoon, the sunlight had softened. The sky turned a pale gold, and the city's noise pressed in like a wave. Her back ached. Her throat was dry. Sweat stuck her shirt to her shoulders. She found a small stone bench beside a humming vending machine and sat down, exhausted. The cool air from the machine brushed her arm. Her dream trip, the one she had imagined for years, suddenly felt like a test she was failing. This was supposed to be exciting, she thought. Not lonely. A man passed by carrying flowers. A girl rode her bike past, humming. Everyone seemed to have somewhere to go, except her. She looked at her folded map again. The lines blurred. Her hands trembled slightly. For the first time on her trip, she felt tears prick her eyes. The boy with the sketchbook. And then she noticed him. A boy, maybe 10, maybe younger, sitting on a low wall not far from her bench. He wasn't on a phone. He wasn't fidgeting. He was drawing. His small hands moved steadily across a sketchbook, his fingers stained blue with pen ink. His eyes were calm, focused. Curiosity won over her exhaustion. She leaned a little to look. She hesitated, then took her travel book from her bag, flipped to a photo of the ginkgo garden, and pointed to it. Then she pointed to herself, then around the streets, then shrugged. Lost, she said softly, half laughing. The boy tilted his head, studying the picture. Then, without a word, he tore out a blank page, picked up his pen, and handed it to her. Elara blinked, confused, but took it. On the page, she drew a little stick figure, herself, with a big question mark floating over its head. The boy smiled, nodded, and took the pen back. He began to draw, quick, confident strokes. First a bus. Then an arrow pointing right. Next, a small tree. Not just any tree, a ginkgo leaf, drawn so delicately it almost looked real. Then another arrow, from the bus to the leaf. He tapped the bus, then pointed down the street, smiling slightly. Elara stared at the paper, then at him, realizing. He had drawn her directions. It was so simple, so pure. She felt her chest tighten with relief. Thank you, she said, pressing her palms together. Arigato. His eyes lit up. He grinned and added one final touch, a tiny stick figure of her with arms raised under a smiling sun. Elara laughed, for the first time all day. The journey to gold. She followed his map exactly. The bus came just as he'd drawn it, the number was the same. Inside, she held onto the pole, the city flashing by like a movie, strangers reading newspapers, a woman humming softly, a child asleep against his mother's shoulder. 20 minutes later, she stepped off, and stopped breathing for a moment. Before her stretched a world of gold. The ginkgo garden. The trees glowed in the late afternoon light, their leaves shimmering in the breeze. The ground was carpeted with gold. The air was quiet, so quiet she could hear the soft whisper of leaves falling. She walked slowly down the path, each step soft and careful. All the frustration, the confusion, the loneliness, it melted away in that golden calm. She sat on a bench, pulled out the boy's drawing, and smiled. It wasn't just a map anymore. It was a memory, of kindness, of being understood without words. She whispered, "Thank you, little artist." Days later, the lesson. That night, she pressed the paper gently into her travel journal. She added a note beside it. Some maps are drawn with ink. Others with kindness. On her last day in Tokyo, she returned to that same area, hoping to see the boy again. She brought a small sketchbook as a gift. But he wasn't there. So, she left the book on the same wall where he'd sat, with a note inside that said simply, "For the boy who showed me the way." As she walked away, she smiled to herself. Maybe he'd find it. Maybe not. Either way, she knew something had changed in her, the way she looked at people, at moments, at silence. Because sometimes, the clearest conversations in life happen without a single word. Moral of the story. True understanding doesn't need perfect English, Wi-Fi, or translation. It only needs patience, empathy, and a heart open enough to listen beyond words. Thanks for watching English Story Room. What did you learn from The Silent Map? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more emotional English stories every week.